On a night wrapped in mist and shadow, Elior Graye crept along the cobblestone paths of Arcanmoor Academy, unaware that his life, and the academy itself, was about to change forever. Whispers of a long-forgotten prisoner echoed through the ancient halls, a secret locked away for decades, and Elior was determined to uncover it. This is the story of courage, magic, and the night Elior Graye discovered the truth behind the Prisoner of Azkaban. Chapter 1. Shadows at Arcanmoor. The night draped itself over Arcanmoor Academy like a heavy velvet cloak. Mist slithered across the cobblestone paths, curling around the ancient towers and turrets as though it were a living thing, breathing softly in the quiet of the moonlight. Elior Graye moved carefully along the outer walls, his boots pressing lightly on the stones. The crisp night air carried the faint scent of wet earth, aged parchment, and the faint, lingering warmth of candlelight from the windows above. Elior's heart beat faster than usual, the thrill of the unknown tugging at his every nerve. He was not afraid, not entirely, though a shiver ran down his spine. There was something about the East Wing, quiet, abandoned, shrouded in whispers and rumors, that always called to him. Tonight, it called louder than ever. A sudden sound, a low scraping of stone against metal, made him freeze. He held his breath, listening. "Lyra?" he whispered. From behind a dense cluster of night-blooming roses stepped Lyra Vale, her dark hair tied back in a loose braid, a leather-bound book clutched to her chest. Even in the dim moonlight, her calm, analytical gaze seemed to pierce through the fog. "You're late," Elior said, a teasing lilt in his voice. "I thought I'd have to rescue you from the library or something." Lyra allowed a small smile, the corners of her lips tugging faintly upward. "Responsible enough to follow you into danger," she replied, her voice low, measured. "But I suppose you owe me an explanation. Why are we wandering the East Wing at this hour?" Elior glanced up at the towering walls, where shadows twisted unnaturally in the moonlight. "It's not just curiosity tonight," he said, voice dropping to a whisper. "I overheard Professor Morn talking today about a prisoner. She didn't say who, but the hallways seemed to speak his name. People are whispering about someone locked away, forgotten." Lyra's brow furrowed. "Elior, you can't follow every rumor. Some doors are locked for a reason. What if this is dangerous?" "Since when has danger ever stopped me?" Elior countered, a grin spreading across his face. "Besides, Coren is already inside, waiting in the library. He said he'd found something unusual." A soft shuffle of footsteps made them both pause. From behind a tapestry depicting the Academy's founding rose a figure, Mira Fenlow, her hands clutching a small notebook. Her wide, cautious eyes scanned the misty courtyard before settling on Elior and Lyra. I overheard something," Mira whispered, voice barely audible over the night wind. "About a prisoner, someone trying to escape, or someone who disappeared from the dungeons years ago." Elior's pulse quickened. This was more than rumor, it was a thread leading straight into the heart of a mystery. The fog seemed to thicken, curling around their cloaks like a living veil. "Then it's settled," he said, determination threading through his tone. "We find the truth tonight." From somewhere deep in the castle, the distant toll of a bell echoed, a low, melodic chime that reverberated through the stone walls. Elior shivered, feeling the vibration in his chest. Finner Reed, the elderly library keeper, would later describe it as a sound belonging to both the past and the present, and to secrets best left undisturbed. They began their careful journey through the foggy courtyard, the sound of their footsteps mingling with the occasional cry of a night bird. Elior led the way, lantern in hand, its golden glow casting dancing shadows that flickered and swayed across the wet stones. The East Wing loomed ahead, its windows dark, the carved oak doors sealed with ancient wards. A cold wind swept through, carrying whispers that sounded almost like voices, faint and distant. As they reached the first landing of the wing, Elior hesitated. "The dungeons start beneath this wing," he murmured. "I can feel it. Something is down there." Lyra adjusted the strap of her satchel, her calm gaze steady. "You feel it?" "Elior, you've always been sensitive to magic, but this isn't just magical presence. It's aware." Elior's eyes gleamed. "Exactly. And that's why we're here." The corridor stretched before them, narrow and lined with faded tapestries that depicted forgotten battles. Their colors were dulled by centuries, but one could still make out dragons, sorcerers, and knights frozen in mid-action. Mira pressed herself close to the wall, whispering, "It's alive. The magic, it's moving." "Magic doesn't lie," Elior said softly. "And it rarely waits for anyone." They reached the wrought iron gates leading to the dungeon stairs. Cold air wafted from below, carrying a metallic tang that made their noses twitch. Elior's hand hovered over the latch. He glanced at Lyra, then Mira, and nodded. "Together." Both girls nodded, determination etched on their faces despite the apprehension. As the gate creaked open, a gust of air burst out like a sigh from the depths of the academy, chilling them to the bone. Shadows flickered along the stone walls as they descended, torchlight from above barely illuminating the spiral staircase. Every step echoed ominously, and the farther they went, the more the whispers grew, soft, fleeting, almost too faint to catch. "Do you hear that?" Mira whispered, clutching her notebook. "Yes," Elior said, his voice barely audible. "It's guiding us. I can feel it." By the time they reached the first landing of the dungeon, a distant clanging reverberated from below, sending a shiver down their spines. Elior raised his lantern, its flame steady despite the chill. Ahead, the corridor split into twisting passages, and the stone walls seemed to lean in, enclosing them in the history of the academy itself. "Professor Morn said some secrets are dangerous," Lyra said softly, almost to herself. "And yet here we are." Elior's smile was fierce. "Some secrets are worth the danger." And with that, the three of them ventured deeper, the fog and shadows swallowing them whole, and the distant, unspoken presence of a long-forgotten prisoner waiting silently in the darkness. Chapter 2. The Library of Whispers. The library of Arcanmoor Academy was a cathedral of secrets. Towering shelves reached up to vaulted ceilings, carved from dark, polished wood that gleamed even in the dim light. Candles floated mid-air, untethered and steady, their flames casting warm pools of gold that danced along the spines of countless ancient tomes. The faint scent of parchment, ink, and a hint of lavender from the enchanted dusting powders mingled, creating an atmosphere both comforting and mysterious. Elior, Lyra, and Mira stepped carefully between the towering shelves, the echo of their footsteps muffled by thick, enchanted rugs that lined the floors. Coren Dusk was already there, perched on a ladder like a mischievous bird, his dark hair ruffled and his eyes sparkling with excitement. "You're finally here," he called, dropping lightly onto the floor beside them. "I found something. Something really unusual." Elior leaned forward eagerly. "What is it?" Coren held up a thick, dust-covered ledger, its leather cover cracked and worn with age. "It's a prisoner registry. Dates, names, magical offenses, but one name keeps popping up again and again, Aldrich Thorn." He flipped the pages carefully, revealing cramped, looping handwriting alongside intricate symbols that seemed to shimmer faintly in the candlelight. He was locked away decades ago for something dangerous. Forbidden magic, apparently. But the notes are strange. They hint that he disappeared. No one knows how, or if he was ever recaptured. Lyra stepped closer, adjusting her glasses. Her calm, analytical mind was already working. "Forbidden magic," she murmured. "That's extremely rare, even at Arcanmoor. Most students would barely survive attempting it." She ran a finger along the ledger's page. "And yet here are records of him. His name keeps appearing, almost as if someone wants it remembered." Mira clutched her notebook to her chest, her voice barely a whisper. I think I remember Professor Morn mentioning Aldrich Thorne once. She said his case was unusual. Something about time and magic, and that he wasn't to be trusted fully. Elior's pulse quickened, his curiosity reaching a fever pitch. Then it's him. That's the prisoner I heard about. We have to know the truth. Coren grinned, leaning back against a shelf. You mean we're actually going to the dungeons, aren't we? Of course, Elior said without hesitation. This isn't just about curiosity anymore. If he's still somewhere, we have to see for ourselves. Lyra's expression was a mix of apprehension and resolve. Elior, you do realize this could be dangerous. Forbidden magic isn't just dangerous in theory, it's lethal. Elior's grin only widened. Then it's perfect. What's an adventure without a little danger? The three of them followed Coren deeper into the library, winding between shelves stacked with magical texts, some so large they required 2 people to lift. Floating lanterns bobbed gently above their heads, illuminating runes carved into the walls that pulsed faintly with residual magic. Occasionally, a whisper of paper brushing against paper made them glance nervously over their shoulders. It was as though the library itself was alive, watching, guiding them. At the far end, the floor dropped sharply into a spiral staircase leading to the dungeons below. A faint draft rose from the depths, carrying the metallic tang of iron and something older, muskier, something that smelled of secrets long hidden. Elior took a deep breath. "This is it," he said, voice steady but filled with anticipation. "This is where it begins." They descended, each step echoing through the stone passageway. Mira clung to the wall, trembling slightly, while Lyra's calm expression belied her racing thoughts. Elior's hand hovered near the small wand in his pocket, just in case. The deeper they went, the heavier the air became, thick with latent magic that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Suddenly, a faint clanging noise echoed from below, distant but deliberate. It was not the sound of rats or shifting stones, it was a warning, a challenge. "Did you hear that?" Mira whispered, her eyes wide. Elior nodded. "Yes. And it's telling us we're on the right path." A turn in the corridor revealed a series of iron gates, their locks long rusted but reinforced with layers of protective enchantments. Coren knelt, inspecting the carvings etched into the metal. "These are old containment wards, powerful ones. Whoever was kept behind these gates, they were considered extremely dangerous." Lyra examined the symbols with quiet fascination. Not just dangerous. Highly intelligent, magical, and cunning. Whoever Aldrich Thorne was, he wasn't ordinary. Elior pressed his hand against the gate, feeling the residual magic vibrate beneath his palm. A faint whisper echoed through the stone corridor, curling around them like smoke. "Elior Graye, find the key." All three froze. Mira swallowed hard. It spoke to you?" "Yes," Elior said, eyes shining. "And I think it wants us to follow." The hallway ahead seemed to darken as if the shadows themselves were bending toward them. Elior's hand lingered over the latch, a mix of thrill and fear rushing through him. Lyra's steady gaze met his, silently acknowledging that they were stepping into the unknown together. Elior whispered, "Together." Lyra and Mira nodded. The gate creaked open, releasing a rush of cold air that smelled of iron, earth, and centuries-old secrets. Shadows flickered along the walls, and the staircase beneath seemed to descend endlessly. The whispers grew louder, though still distant, hints of voices, faint and fleeting. "Do you feel that?" Mira asked, her voice trembling. "Yes," Elior said softly. "It's alive. It's waiting for us." As they descended, the air thickened further, charged with magic that seemed to hum in their bones. Every step brought them closer to the heart of the mystery, the prisoner whose name had been whispered through generations, waiting to be uncovered. And somewhere, in the darkness below, eyes unseen watched their progress, a silent presence that had awaited Elior Graye for a long, long time. Chapter 3. The Prisoner's Echo. The deeper they went into the dungeons, the heavier the air became. It wasn't just the cold, though the chill cut through their cloaks, but the very presence of something alive in the stones, something that seemed to breathe with them, waiting and watching. The walls, rough-hewn and damp, pulsed faintly with a shimmer of residual magic, like the heartbeat of the academy itself. Every footstep echoed, a warning and a call, mingling with the soft drip of water from unseen cracks in the stone. Elior led the way, his lantern casting long, trembling shadows. Lyra followed close, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to Mira, who clutched her notebook and whispered prayers under her breath. Coren had disappeared briefly to scout ahead, leaving the trio to navigate the twisting corridors themselves. Suddenly, a low clatter echoed from a nearby passage, metal scraping stone. Elior froze. "Probably just rats," Coren's voice called from a shadowed alcove ahead. "No," Mira said firmly, shaking her head. "It was deliberate, purposeful." As if to confirm her words, a whisper slithered through the corridor, curling around them like smoke. "Elior Graye, find the key." Lyra's eyes widened. Did that just speak?" "Yes," Elior breathed. His pulse thumped wildly. "And I think it wants us to follow." The corridor twisted sharply, ending at an iron gate, scarred and ancient. Beyond it, a shadow moved, restless, patient, and intelligent. The flickering torchlight caught something in its form. A figure, tall, gaunt, with eyes that glimmered faintly like distant stars. It was a presence that seemed older than the castle itself. "Who dares enter my domain?" The voice was both commanding and mournful, echoing softly off the stone walls. Elior stepped forward, courage rising with each heartbeat. "I am Elior Graye. We seek the truth about the prisoner, Aldrich Thorne." The figure's expression softened slightly, almost imperceptibly. "Truth is not what you think. I am not entirely free, yet not fully bound. Time and magic weave a cage far stronger than iron." Lyra's voice was steady. "What do you want from us?" The figure lifted a pale hand, revealing a small, intricately carved key that glimmered faintly in the lantern light. "This opens what should never be opened, yet it must also be found. You are chosen, Elior Graye." Elior hesitated, the weight of the key in his mind far heavier than the one in his hand. "Chosen for what?" Before the figure could answer, the distant rumble of shifting stone echoed through the dungeon. The gates of cells deeper in the corridors trembled as though responding to some unseen force. Shadows lengthened unnaturally, crawling along the walls in chaotic patterns. The air thickened with the scent of iron, dust, and magic long forgotten. "Stay close," Elior whispered, his heart hammering in his chest. "Whatever this is, it's alive." Mira nodded, barely daring to breathe. It wants something from you," she said softly. "From all of us." The figure stepped back, its translucent form flickering as if caught between worlds. "You must take the key and walk carefully. Every choice you make now echoes far beyond this dungeon. Your courage will be tested, and so will your heart." Elior's hand closed over the key. It was warm despite the cold, pulsing with energy that seemed almost sentient. He felt a tug in his chest, a connection to the figure, as if it could see into his very thoughts. "We'll be careful," he said, voice steady. "We'll do whatever it takes." A gust of cold wind swept through the corridor, rattling the torchlight. Shadows danced wildly, forming shapes that resembled chains, wings, and faces from 100 different ages. The figure's eyes glimmered one last time. "Then walk, and remember. Some doors, once opened, can never be closed again." With that, the figure faded into the darkness, leaving behind only the echo of its voice and the key in Elior's hand. The trio exchanged glances, the weight of their task pressing down on them, heavier than any stone. "This is it." Coren's voice came from behind a corner, startling them. "No turning back now. The real adventure begins." Elior tightened his grip on the key. "Then let's move." The dungeon seemed to respond, corridors twisting and turning with subtle, almost imperceptible changes, as if guiding them toward some hidden chamber. Every step resonated with purpose, each whisper of the stone pressing them onward. It was clear, Aldrich Thorne's story was more than a legend. It was alive. And the key in Elior's hand was only the beginning. They moved as one, hearts pounding, minds racing, and senses alert to every sound. The faint drip of water, the scrape of stone, the distant echo of footsteps that weren't theirs. With each step, Elior felt the pull of destiny tightening around him. The dungeon no longer just stone and shadow, but a living puzzle crafted to test courage, friendship, and the very essence of magic itself. By the time they reached a chamber deeper within the labyrinth, their lanterns flickered, casting dancing patterns on the walls. In the center hovered a faint, translucent figure, smaller and yet more imposing up close, Aldrich Thorne, the long-lost prisoner. His eyes were sorrowful yet fierce, glimmering with centuries of knowledge and secrets. "I've been waiting," Aldrich's voice echoed, reverberating softly. "And now, perhaps, freedom is within reach." A surge of energy pulsed from the walls, warm yet electrifying, causing the lanterns to sway. Elior instinctively held the key toward a hidden slot embedded in the chamber floor. The moment the key touched it, a radiant light erupted, enveloping them all in a gentle but intense glow. The dungeon trembled, but it no longer felt threatening. In that light, Elior realized, this was not just about freeing a prisoner. It was about courage, friendship, and discovering the true meaning of magic itself. The echoes of the past, the whispers of the walls, and the secrets of Aldrich Thorne were all converging, and Elior was at the center. Chapter 4. Secrets of Azkaban. The chamber beyond the glowing portal was unlike anything Elior had ever seen. The walls were no longer cold stone, but a shimmering expanse of crystal that pulsed softly with a gentle light, illuminating the passage ahead. The air was warm, filled with the scent of ozone and faint traces of herbs, an aroma both foreign and comforting. It hummed with magic, alive and aware, as though the very space itself were breathing. Elior, Lyra, Mira, and Coren stepped cautiously forward, their footsteps light against the crystalline floor. The key pulsed softly in Elior's hand, guiding them toward the heart of the chamber. Shadows danced across the walls, forming shapes that suggested dragons soaring and ancient sorcerers casting spells. Every image flickered before solidifying again, like a story being told in fragments. "It's beautiful," Mira whispered, eyes wide as she ran her fingers along the smooth surface of a crystal panel. "It's like the dungeon is alive." "Yes," Lyra said, her calm voice tinged with awe. "And it's protective. This place isn't meant to be found by the careless. Only someone chosen, like Elior," she trailed off, letting the idea linger. A sudden chuckle echoed through the chamber, playful and warm. From the shadows emerged Master Quinlan, the Academy's eccentric potion master. His robe was streaked with vibrant colors, flecks of powder sparkling faintly in the light. "The brave seekers have arrived," he said, bowing theatrically. "And here I thought I'd be the only one wandering these halls at night." Elior lifted an eyebrow. "Master Quinlan? What are you doing here?" Quinlan's eyes twinkled. "Oh, I have my ways. And let me assure you, this place requires more than just courage. It requires creativity, daring, and a touch of imagination. You've found the key, yes? Excellent. That key is only the beginning. The true trial lies ahead." Coren grinned. "Trial? This sounds exciting already." Quinlan waved his hands dramatically. "Indeed. But proceed carefully. The prisoner you seek, Aldrich Thorne, is no ordinary spirit. His magic, his essence, is bound up with the very fabric of this place. One wrong move and, Well, let's not imagine the consequences. The group pressed onward, deeper into the crystalline maze. The light shifted subtly with each step, casting dancing reflections that seemed to guide them forward. At the center of the chamber, floating above a pedestal carved from a single massive crystal, was a translucent figure, Aldrich Thorne. His eyes were a strange, luminous silver, flickering like starlight against the dim glow. "I've waited," Aldrich said softly, yet with a strength that made the words resonate through the walls. "And now, perhaps, my freedom is within reach." Elior stepped forward, holding the key aloft. The moment it touched a hidden slot at the pedestal's base, the chamber erupted in a radiant light. The crystals pulsed with energy, bathing the room in shifting hues of gold, violet, and deep blue. The effect was breathtaking, yet intense, like staring directly into the heartbeat of magic itself. Lyra shielded her eyes, her voice steady even as she marveled at the sight. "Elior, be careful. That energy, it's alive. It reacts to intention, to emotion, even to fear." Elior took a deep breath, centering himself. "I'm ready," he whispered. The key thrummed in his hand, syncing with the rhythm of his heartbeat. A faint warmth spread through him, like a tide of courage, and he felt a strange connection to Aldrich, an understanding that transcended time and space. The light coalesced around Aldrich's figure, and for a moment, the boundaries between past and present, prisoner and seeker, seemed to blur. Images flashed across Elior's mind, Aldrich studying spells that bent reality, moments of triumph, moments of despair, and finally, the accident that led to his imprisonment. Elior felt the weight of the centuries, the isolation, and the yearning for freedom. "I am bound, yet not fully," Aldrich said, his voice echoing. "The magic that kept me here was woven with intent, with protection, and with punishment. Only those who approach with courage and a pure heart may set me free, or understand my purpose." Elior stepped closer, placing a hand on the pedestal, feeling the pulse of energy flow through his fingertips. "We want to help," he said, voice firm. "We want to understand. And we won't let you be forgotten." Aldrich's figure shimmered, his expression softening. "Then you must trust in yourselves, as much as in me. The path forward will test every bond, every truth you hold. And yet, there is hope." Suddenly, the chamber trembled. The walls of crystal rippled, and the light shifted to a deep, resonant violet. Whispers, ancient and melodic, echoed around them, speaking in a language Elior could not understand, yet felt in his very bones. The energy surged, and the pedestal began to rise, lifting Aldrich's form higher into the center of the chamber. "Hold the key steady," Quinlan's voice rang out, guiding them. "Do not let fear dictate your actions. Only clarity, courage, and purpose will bring harmony." Elior's hands gripped the key tightly, feeling the pulse synchronize with his heartbeat. With a deep, centering breath, he focused on the intent: freedom, understanding, and friendship. The light flared, reaching a crescendo, and then, everything stilled. When their eyes adjusted, the chamber was quiet. Aldrich Thorne now stood solidly before them, no longer translucent, yet radiating a calm strength that seemed to command both respect and warmth. The energy that had once surged now flowed gently around the crystal walls, humming softly like a lullaby of protection. Elior exhaled, relief and wonder flooding him. "We did it," he whispered. "He's free." Lyra smiled, her calm returning fully. "And we've learned something important. Not just about him, but about courage, about the magic in our hearts, and the trust we place in one another." Mira, usually quiet and hesitant, stepped forward. I think I understand now. Magic isn't just spells or keys. It's intention, courage, and connection. Everything we do, it matters." Coren grinned. "Well, that was certainly worth the adventure. But I have a feeling this is only the beginning." Aldrich's eyes softened as he regarded them. "Remember this night, Elior Graye. Remember what you've learned. Some doors, once opened, can never be closed again. The truth of magic, of courage, of friendship, it will stay with you forever. And the next path, the one you choose, will define not just your journey, but the legacy of Arcanmoor itself. The group exchanged glances, the weight of his words settling over them. The crystal walls pulsed faintly with a gentle warmth, and for the first time, the dungeons no longer felt like a prison. They had discovered a secret, yes, but more importantly, they had discovered the strength within themselves. Elior held the key once more, feeling its gentle pulse. The adventure was far from over, but he knew they were ready. The mysteries of Arcanmoor awaited, and he would face them all. Chapter 5. The Light Beyond Shadows. The group emerged from the crystalline chamber, the lingering glow fading into the soft ambient light of Arcanmoor's dungeons. The once oppressive corridors now felt strangely alive, humming with gentle magic, as if the very stones were whispering approval. Elior Graye held the key in his hand, now warm and steady, no longer pulsing with tension but with a quiet, comforting energy. Lyra adjusted her satchel, a small smile tugging at her lips. It's amazing how a place that once frightened us can feel welcoming now. Mira nodded, still wide-eyed. I think it's because we faced it together. I never thought I could feel brave, but tonight, I understand. Coren clapped Elior on the back with a grin. You always did have a knack for finding trouble, and somehow making it magical. Ahead, the stairs led upward toward the great hall. The familiar scent of polished wood, candle wax, and roasted herbs drifted down to meet them, blending with the lingering shimmer of the dungeon's magic. Aldrich Thorne's presence followed them, solid and free now, yet still radiant with the soft silver light of his spirit, harmonized with the Academy's protective energy. Thank you, Aldrich said softly, his eyes fixed on Elior. I've waited centuries for someone who would act with courage, with honesty, and with heart. You, all of you, have restored something I thought lost forever. Elior's heart swelled. We didn't just free you. We learned from you. From your story, your mistakes, and your magic. Aldrich's gaze shifted toward the great hall above. And now, it is time for the light beyond the shadows. For you, young seekers, and for Arcanmoor itself, the truth must be remembered, not hidden. As they ascended the stairs, the familiar architecture of the great hall came into view, yet it felt transformed. Candlelight flickered, casting soft, golden patterns across the polished floor. Floating lanterns glimmered gently above, echoing the crystalline light from below, bridging the world of dungeons and the world of life above. Elior looked around at his friends. Lyra, calm and insightful, Coren, lively and fearless, Mira, shy yet filled with quiet strength, and felt a profound sense of belonging. We did it, he said, voice barely a whisper. We really did it. Lyra smiled softly. And we've discovered more than just secrets about a prisoner. We've discovered ourselves. Courage isn't just action, it's understanding, patience, and trust. Coren laughed, his usual humor returning. And a little chaos never hurts, right? Mira giggled, the first genuine laughter she'd shared in weeks. Maybe a little chaos, but guided by courage. Aldrich stepped forward, his presence both grounding and ethereal. Remember this night, Elior Graye. Remember the lessons you've learned, the bonds you've strengthened, and the light you carry within. Magic is not just in spells or keys, it is in hearts that dare to seek, to question, and to protect. Elior looked up at the moonlight streaming through the high windows. Stars glittered like tiny sentinels, and the Academy seemed alive with possibility, each shadow hiding a story waiting to be discovered. I think this is only the beginning, he said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. Aldrich smiled faintly, a glimmer of pride and warmth in his gaze. Indeed. There are doors yet unopened, mysteries yet unsolved, and magic yet untapped. You have proven yourself worthy. Walk forward with courage, and you will find all that awaits you. As they stood in the great hall, the gentle hum of magic surrounded them, a lullaby of protection and hope. The adventures of Arcanmoor Academy stretched before them, vast and filled with promise. For Elior Graye, curiosity was no longer just a habit, it was a calling. And now, he knew, every corridor, every shadow, every whispered secret held the potential for discovery, for courage and for wonder. He looked at his friends one last time, and a quiet smile tugged at his lips. Let's see where the next adventure takes us. The night air outside was calm, the stars shimmering like watchful eyes. The academy rested peacefully, yet somewhere deep within, magic stirred, alive and aware, waiting for the next story to unfold. And Elior Graye, brave, curious, and kind, knew he would be ready. The shadows had passed, but the light beyond them promised infinite possibilities. Clapperboard written by Magical Night.